Mahela Jayawardena, welcome to Chat-Athon.
Thank you, Santosh. Glad to be here.
You know, my first question, this is something I asked you the last time I met you, and which was every time you hit a boundary, you would always run to the other end of the crease, ground your bat, and return. And I wanted the audience to know why you did that.
Well, it was something that I've started when I was playing school cricket actually. When I was about 13 or 14, I can't really remember. I used to get out after scoring a boundary quite frequently, and I was trying to figure out myself why I was doing that, and I realized that it's just the adrenaline that, you know, when I score a good shot for a boundary and it's still there, and when I'm facing that next ball as well, and I tend to make a mistake whether I try to go for another big shot or whether I'm just not concentrating enough. So I wanted some time in between two balls after scoring a boundary or a six. So one way of me doing that was to make sure that I run to the other end and tell myself that is finished. So usually when you take a single or when you do that, that becomes a routine, and I just wanted to continue that, and that's how that started. That's how I started, you know, going to the other end, which gave me that extra bit of time.
Yes.
Come walk back, you know, get back to my crease and start all over again, fresh for that next ball. And I just continued that because it worked for me in school cricket, it worked for me in first class cricket, and it surely did work for me in international cricket. So yeah.
So was it that you did it every time you hit a four, or was it that you did it, you know, on certain occasions when you felt the adrenaline going up?
No, I've actually gotten used to a routine because I think it's like in golf as well, you know, a certain routine helps guys. And I've realized that at a younger age that for me with the batting as well, that a certain routine helps me to be calm out there as well as to get a good breathing pattern going, so I'm ready for the next ball. So I do it all the time, whether it's an easy boundary, whether it's a hard boundary, whatever. I just make sure that I do that. The only downside to it is that when you hit a boundary or a six, you don't want to go near the bowler, because when I do that, I get a earful sometimes from some of the bowlers.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they feel that I'm trying to you know, be funny and get into their face, which is not. The actual thing is, it's a routine that I developed to calm myself down for the next ball. But I in return, I would get a earful, but I just put my head down and go back again, because for me, when I'm batting, it's just all about me in the sense that where I want to be and make sure that I get the job done for the team. So I'm not bothered about anything else.
Sure. But any memorable events in terms of the earfuls that you may have got, something that is shareable on camera?
Not really. I think I've had plenty in my time, but it's in good spirit. I don't think we've ever crossed that line, and it's always been healthy. But if it wasn't, I usually do give it to them back, but it has been very rare. I mean, I can't even remember, but I feel that it should be part of the game, that little bit of feistiness, because it brings out the best in a bowler and a batsman.
Sure.
And you should allow it as long as it doesn't spill out.
Sure. Okay, you know, I had this Chat-Athon session with Muthaiya Muralidharan, and he said something very interesting about you. I want to show you what he said.
So Mahela is, when he joined the team, I know him and Sangai and Mahela both came. We were together, like, you know, all the time, because he's quite younger than me, 5 and 6, but we have been great friends, and we're going out and everything we're doing together. So Mahela had a better brain than most of the cricketers, because he wants to win everything.
Yes.
And he wants, he's a decision maker, and he asks sometimes, and he makes a decision. So he has a good field settings and everything. He tries hard, and he had a great team as well.
So who was the biggest gambler?
I would say Mahela will gamble a lot.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Mahela knows what to do in things, and he knows who is the best person to that time.
Yes. I mean, high praise from a
Yeah, it's
from a modern great, right?
telling I'm a gambler on national TV.
I mean, obviously, what he meant was a risk
Yes,
taker.
yes.
And so, obviously, I mean, so my question really is, this whole being a leader of a team, what does it take and how do you go about doing that?
Well, I think Murali brought a great point because I had a very, very good team. I think you need that support around you. I had Murali, I had Vasi, I had Sangha, Sanat, Dilshan, Lasit, Anjanta Mendis. I had a lot of trumps I can use in situations. And it made my decision making much easier. But the hardest thing was to identify all these individuals because on their own they're very unique.
Yes.
And a lot of them are alpha males as well.
Yes.
And to make sure that I juggle and balance that situations and like Muri said, to use the right trumps at the right time and keep everyone in focus doing that. I think a good leader is all about identifying your team, who they are. It's not just about on the skills. It's all about the personalities. It's all about where they come from, the background, and I should know that when I look into someone's eyes, that he's ready for that situation.
Yeah.
A captain should know that. You can't be second guessing. And I try to have good relationships with each and every player in my squad so that I understand what triggers them, what not, and try and see how best I can use these guys in different situations. So it's not hard work. It's all about communication. It's all about listening to them. It's all about respecting them. Because I'm a firm believer that you cannot demand respect. You have to earn your respect, and one way of doing that is through communication, through trusting them, trusting their ability. So a lot of things, and at the end of the day is to have fun with them, have a good time out there. It's a game. Yes, like Murali said, I hate losing. I always want to win, but in the right manner, that I can say that I haven't taken any shortcuts. I haven't done anything wrong, but played the game fair and square and tried my best.
You talked about winning, and you talked about, also one of the things which was unsaid in what Murali said was that you created a culture of winning. And you also spoke very interestingly about the routine you had when you hit a four. Did you start trying to get your team to start thinking of routines in the way they played their cricket? Was there something specific in terms of what you did with the team that you felt helped create a culture of winning?
Well, I think it's tough for you to force something on another player that works for you.
Yeah.
But we created a culture where people will talk about what works for them.
Yeah.
And we would respect that. And if someone wants to pick on that,
Yeah.
was allowed to, but no one was forced to. I don't think, because the uniqueness of a good team is to have individuals, and to let those individuals express themselves. Individuality is something unique. The world will be a very boring place if everyone thinks and eats and drinks and do everything the same way.
Exactly.
Why it's so interesting is because people are different, and the important thing is to get all these characters in a team and allow them to act the way they want, but everyone should understand what their goals are, what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Winning and losing is part of the whole process, but if we are in a good space and everyone's happy and everyone's enjoying their little parts, little roles in that team, more often than not we will be winning, because we had unique players. We had great characters. When Murali is right at the top in that part. But I think that's something that I wanted to create. A culture that people respect each other is not just for the seniority, because we unfortunately, when I joined the team, there was a culture where the seniors and juniors and juniors were supposed to just sit and see what the guys were doing. It's not a bad thing actually. I think that helped us to win a '96 World Cup.
Sure.
That turned a corner. But with the modern day cricket, I just wanted to, when we were at the top, I just wanted to change that a little bit. I wanted the younger guys to express themselves more, that they feel that they're part of the team and they're part of the decision making process as well.
Sure.
And they would be listened to, and their ideas will be executed. And everyone was quite happy with that.
Were there any examples? You talked about Murali being top of the list and there being many characters, because I'm sure viewers would love to hear about these characters and what they brought to the table and how certain things happened in your team dynamics, which kind of symbolized the making of this winning Sri Lankan overachieving team.
Yeah, I mean Murali, why I said he was a great character, because he's a guy that you need in a team.
Yes.
Not just on his bowling skills, that's phenomenal, and any captain would love to have him. But it's just the human being, Murali.
Yes.
He's the first one to take the newest guy out for a dinner in the squad, and he did that with me when I joined the team. And when he retired, the time he retired, he did the same with the younger groups who was coming as well.
Yes.
So it tells who Muralidharan is. For me, that just sums it up. He's just a very simple guy, but very competitive. But at the same time, he had a lot of values in him, a lot of good values, and he put that on a lot of the younger people, and how they should actually be humble at even when they are like achieving big things. I mean, this guy has taken 800 wickets, but if you see him walking around, he's just a normal,
absolutely
day-to-day guy. That's who Murali is. So at the same time, he was the joker in the dressing room. He wouldn't stop talking. He'll engage everyone in a conversations. He'll have arguments with people on different subjects, but you need them, because otherwise the dressing room becomes a very quiet place. And he doesn't mind if even the younger guys pick on him and say something. So we had one of the long bus rides in London. We had this vote to see who is the ugliest among the two players. It was Ruchira and Murali, and because the guys wanted to make fun of Murali, everyone voted saying Murali was the ugliest. So he took it in the right spirit. It was a good fun ride for all of us, because everyone had a good laugh out of that, and Murali was part of it, and he was probably the most senior player in that squad at that time.
Great testimony to culture.
Yes, and it was good fun, and he instigated the whole thing, and then backfired on him, but he took it in the right spirit. So like that, we had different characters. I mean, Lasit, when he came into the side, was a very quiet guy coming from down south, but very intelligent. Academically, he was very intelligent. Yes. He has done quite well, but he was very quiet. I mean, it was a new environment for him, and we just, especially Sangha and I, wanted to try and get this guy out of that zone, because we knew that he had much more to offer than his ability to bowl.
Yes.
So it took us about a year or two, but gradually he came out. He started in 2005. By the time we went to England, he was coming out, and you could see the expression, the hair came, the coloring came out, the tattoo started appearing. That's his personality. I mean, that's a very free flowing, and we never put any restrictions. I know there were at instances people had made a comment saying, this is not Sri Lanka, this is we need to be disciplined, hairstyles and cuts. For me, it doesn't matter as long as the guys cross the rope and they are going to perform, and preparation and practices, and they are 100%.
Yes.
I don't have problems with what they do beyond that.
Yep.
And if that's the way they're going to express themselves, let them do it. I mean, that's who we are.
Yeah, in fact, what's interesting from what you're saying is it seems like almost you actively encourage the expressions of
Yes,
who they
because see, Sri Lankan, we have a flair. I've always said we have to play the brand of cricket that we are used to. We
Sure.
cannot be someone else.
Sure.
We have to play the Sri Lankan brand of cricket. And in that sense, if the guys are expressing themselves in a different way, let them do it. But you make sure that they don't wave off from the path that you need to walk.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to pull them back and said, that's naughty, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But other than that, just allow them to do it. And then after a couple of years, the Pierces came and all that, so he was fine with it. And we then saw the leadership of Lasith coming out. I mean, he started talking in bowling meetings, and we gave him responsibilities. He started planning stuff, and we realized this guy is very street smart. He knows how to actually find faults in batsmen and have very creative plans against things. And we used him, and we just gave them the responsibility. So it's how you try and get the best out of these guys, and like I said, allow them to have their own role in the team.
Any other players? I mean, you've talked about Lasith and Murali.
I mean, a lot of the other guys as well. I mean, pretty much everyone's a character during our time, because they've always had that. Tilan was like a joker in the bus, always picks on Murali. But when he came to doing his stuff, he was very methodical.
Yes.
If you think I had a routine, Tilan's was like 10 times more. Like, he was very meticulous and focused on that. Sangha was Sangha. I mean, he was a different beast altogether. On the field, when he's there, he's very focused. Off the field, the most unorganized person I've ever come across. We've always teased him. His room was very untidy when he started off, and we kept bugging him, and then later on he became much better in that department. Loved his watches and loved all that, but never had a timekeeping. He never was on time for anything, except for the
kept
team.
you waiting in London.
Yes,
I think last year
yes.
sometime, right?
And that's not the first time. He's kept me waiting for a lot of meetings. But the thing is, that's who he was. I mean, like, when you go for practices, he'll be the most hardworking individual I've ever seen.
Yeah.
On a cricket field. I mean, I haven't associated much other guys in the other countries, but in Sri Lanka for sure, I've never ever seen anyone working that hard on his game over the years. And he was relentless until he wanted to be perfect in the way he wanted to model his game. And it showed. The results showed how consistent he was, how focused he was doing that. So all his energy, everything was put into that. So for him, everything else was just second, except for his family and all that. He was very focused. But when it came to other meetings and various other things we used to do, he was just, okay, fine, I'll be there when I want to be there. But that's who they are. I mean, you have to respect that. But at the end of the day, you get the job done.
Yeah.
So I'm happy.
That's great. This whole thing of risk taking. I mean, I couldn't get out of Murali much when he talked about your risk taking abilities. But I mean, if you can narrate some examples where some risk that you took and it paid off, because again, these are all such educative things. People listen to you and say, hey, you know what? maybe I can do something like this as well with my team, or I can do something like this with our current team. So what are the examples? I tried to probe Murali, but he just left you at gambler and that's about it. But he obviously meant risk taker, and he meant that you take decisions. But were there examples where something paid off? Something you did on the or in an impromptu way which really paid off big time?
Well, I think you have to, when you're a decision maker, you have to, certain situations have to make decisions, simple as that. I always try and be very collective with the rest of the boys and find out what we need to do, but sometimes in a game scenarios, you just have to go with the flow and do things. There's no point, I firmly believe there's no point you coming back to the dressing room or going back to your hotel and think I should have done that, I should have done this.
Yeah.
If you had those ideas, you might as well execute them and see what happens.
Yeah.
So once you start doing that, you naturally become a bit more innovative, in a sense that you get very comfortable with those decisions. It's not erratic, but it's all planned, it's a process. It's very hard for me to explain how that happens, but if you are dealing with a batsman, there are different ways you could tackle him. One way would be to try and mess with his head with different options, showing different field settings, getting the bowler to do different things. And it sometimes, why he says I'm a gambler, because I do bluff a lot.
Yeah.
So I would do a lot of things which the batsman would think, what is he trying to do? I'm actually not doing anything different. I'm just messing with his head with field settings and all that, but the bowlers are not doing anything different to accommodate that field setting. But obviously the batsman will be looking at options, okay, what's his next move going to be, or the bowler's next move going to be.
Sure.
Or we sometimes keep it simple, but we are actually accelerating the thought process of a batsman and to try and uncalm him in a situation.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, but I mean, but it doesn't work with everybody.
Yeah,
it works with somebody.
Can
so
you
that's
give us
where
some
the-
examples of
that's-
somewhere where you did something and it really worked? I mean, I'm sure there are several, but something that you really
Yeah, I
cherish.
mean, we do a lot with Murali, because Murali has a lot of variations.
Yeah.
And it's quite easy for us to do that kind of stuff with batsmen. And we will set fields saying that, okay, this is what we're going to do, but Murali would do something totally opposite.
Yes.
So we would set a field and then bowl something completely different to a batsman. So he's confused to see what's coming at him. And we've been very successful in that scenario because we had Murali who had the variations. When
Yes.
you have Lasith, when you have Ajanta, it's quite easy for us to do that. But if you don't have that kind of quality, then that's when the imagination has to be much higher and create more options. But the latest one, probably what we did was with Josh opening the batting for Mumbai. Obviously it was a left field decision. When I came up with the idea, a lot of the people wasn't very sure because Josh hasn't opened batting. I've seen him opening batting 3 times, one couple of times against Sri Lanka, and we had power hitters. So I just did not want too many power hitters in the bottom half of the batting order. So I thought might as well use him. And we were not sure how Lendl was going to come after his injury. He had just started playing one tournament before that. So we just needed a backup option. So if it worked, if it works, if it doesn't, we still have Lendl, who's your opening batsman. So you just have to see what, if you don't look at it, you'll never know.
Yeah.
That's my theory. And if it's not working, then you'll realize, okay, you can change it. But if it works, then it works. So it's like that. It's about looking at a situation or individual, not just in one way, but in different ways, and see how.
Yeah. But Mahela, I want you to go back to you as a captain. You said as something as a coach, what you did right now. But the reason I'm saying that is because I sense that a lot of Sri Lankan viewers want to relive some of the past glory. You know, I mean, obviously, I'm coming to the question of where we are at Sri Lanka cricket right now, but they want to hear some stories of something where you did something dramatic and got an international player out for Sri Lanka. And that would give people a lot of joy. So if you can give us some example there.
I would struggle. It's tough for me to
Yeah, okay.
remember all that.
Okay.
No, but I mean, it's got nothing to do with me. It's about a team that we plan.
Yeah.
We tell them, okay, this is our plans. The bowlers know what they can do, and we
Sure.
would know as a leaders what this bowler can do for us.
Sure.
And we create a game plan around that and do it. But in extreme situations where, okay, someone's batting well or we are under pressure, that's when we probably have to go away from that plans and then come up with different things. We would change batting lineups. We would like get different guys to go in and bat.
This whole thing of bringing Ajanta Mendis suddenly against India in that particular game, I mean, somewhere Dhananjay also kind of something like this happened recently as well. But I think the original case was the, Mendis against the Indian batting order. They just didn't know what hit them.
Yeah, that's because they hadn't seen them, and then it was the Asia Cup.
Yes.
And we had won the first two games because the way the group was structured, we played all the teams, and the Indian game was our last game.
Yes.
And both of us had already qualified for the final.
Yes.
So we thought there's no point showing the Indians because they hadn't played him before. So we rested him for the group game.
Yes.
And just played him in the finals straight away because it's a big game, and by the time the Indians really figure out how they need to play him, it was too late.
Yes.
So it was a quite easy decision, but I mean, when it pays off the way it did, yes, you're satisfied because you had a good game plan and it all came together. But later on, they found out exactly how to play him, and
Yes.
obviously Ajanta lost a bit of control, and they got on top of him. But I mean, we try and capitalize as much as we can with that kind of variety or that kind of surprise element. I think Murali and Ajanta went through the Indian batting lineup in the Test series in Sri Lanka, where we won 2-1 or 2-0 against Sachin, Rahul, PVS, Viru, Saurav, the whole work. So very happy about that, and those were the best memories that we would have. Going back, we win a Test series in England, beating a good side in Sri Lanka, or we beat New Zealand in a Test series. Like that, it was. Those are the moments that you will relive and say, okay, fine, we did that, and we accomplished this. And like you said, we came to 5 World Cup finals, and that was amazing in that short space, and we were quite consistent. I mean, if we were not in the finals, we were either semi-finalists, losing in a semi-final.
We were always in the top 3.
Correct. So for us as a unit, as a group of players, was much more satisfying that we were playing a brand of cricket that we enjoyed, the fans enjoyed, and most, we were playing for Sri Lanka, and we were quite proud of that.
Yesterday when I was day before when I was speaking to Harsha Bhogle in my Chat-Athon, we explored the whole thing of sledging. And of course, in that context, he was a lover of Australia. So, and I was kind of accusing Australia of being the ones who started the whole concept of sledging. Of course, his justification was that, the Australian thinking was that we needed to do everything we could on the field to win. And if that meant exploiting mental frailties of batsmen, we did it. Did Sri Lanka ever use, I wouldn't use the word sledging, but this whole concept of mental frailties, was there discussion around batsmen and their mental frailties and saying, let's work on the mental frailties of so-and-so batsmen? Did that ever happen?
Yeah, but obviously not in a bad way, like using foul language. I think you could actually get into someone's skin by saying things. say for instance, like if someone's struggling against a bowler like say Murali or Lasit, then we would, soon as he comes into bat, we'll bring that bowler on even if he's not bowling, to remind him that your history is
Yeah.
pretty bad against him, and then the guys around the bat and all that will make sure that he gets reminded quite frequently.
Yes.
And the way he gets out and stuff like that. So it's just that if a batsman don't know how to shut himself down, then he will be under pressure. So
Yes.
it's a common thing that the guys will do that. The Australians would do the same thing with their fast bowlers, and when guys go to bat, and the slips would come across and say a few things. But like I said, it's all done in a very good spirit.
Of course.
As long as it doesn't spill out in a bad way, I think it's healthy for the game. I think that's why I love Test cricket, because it's far from being it's 5 days. That's the most testing thing for an individual to go through. As a bowler, the fatigue, the concentration, and a batsman, to make sure that they're mentally tough to handle, to bat for 5 sessions or 6 sessions, and to go through that whole thing, where people will say things, the bowlers attack, the different field settings, and to try and construct an innings, and that's where you really get tested.
Kumar Sangakkara and Sean Pollock, obviously that was something explosive happening there. I mean, from what I hear and understand from Kumar, that was a particularly bad tour in terms of the South African sledging. I mean, so did you have any experience like that? Obviously, we haven't seen you on camera, and I try to look really hard for you sledging, but I couldn't find any. So obviously, you were doing a great job of either not sledging or not letting anyone know you were. But any examples where you actually went after a batsman, or some level of frustration got to you and you did something?
Not really. I have done my fair share of sledging. Obviously, if you couldn't find that, means I've done a good job.
Yep.
But I have had my issues. Obviously, we had one incident in Australia in a T20 game with Maxi was batting, and I tried to slow the game down, and he came at us. So that's what I wanted to get him to do, to get him frustrated and shout at us, which worked for us. We won the match because he needed only 5 runs in the last 2 balls, where we could have easily won that, and he scored 3 boundaries in that last over. And I just wanted to slow the game down. I wasn't even captaining, Angelo was captaining, so I had to run from the boundary, stop things, and in that scenario, Lasit also came. So the plan was for Thisara to bowl straight Yorkers at him, because every time he went for a wide Yorker, he was getting hammered all over the place. So we set a field. We brought everyone from the offside in, and we set a straight field and told bowl straight Yorkers, because there's a long boundary, and if he clears that, then it's fine.
Yeah.
So he needed 4 of the last ball or 3 of the last ball, and Thisara bluffed, Maxi bluffed us, everybody. We never plan that. He went and bowled another wide Yorker. And luckily Maxi didn't realize, he missed it as well. And you were thinking, what were you thinking, Thisara? I mean, like, we set a field. It wasn't a bluff. We were supposed to execute it, but he bluffed all of us.
Okay. Was it a bluff or was it inadvertent?
No, it was just he just lost it. Just the release point, whatever his explanation was that.
Yeah.
But Maxi got really upset that we slowed the game and all that. So we had an altercation during when we were shaking hands on the field, and then later on I went to his dressing room and he came out, because we played for the same team in Delhi before that.
Sure.
So we had a chat and said, it was part, everything was fine. But with Sang and Sean, and that South African series was pretty much a tough one, and
it crossed the line into
it did cross the line. It did cross the line purely because we realized that it was like organized way of them doing it, even with the broadcaster and how they went about saying things. So the first test, we took a bad hit, like we were really down. We lost it in 3 days, and we had a meeting, and we sat down and said, we cannot play like this. Skill, if you take the two teams, both were skillful, but we can, match them.
Yeah.
But we're struggling against not the top 2-3 guys, but the younger group, and everyone was struggling a lot with the abuse that they were getting. So we've identified 5 guys in their team who was coming at us, and we had a plan, and we went after those 5 guys in the second test.
Wow, that's great.
And it was really bad.
Yes.
And one of them was Herschel Gibbs, Jack, a few other guys, top guys who were. And Herschel was actually in tears by the time he came to bat in the second innings, and he actually walked to, I think Marwan was the captain at that time, or Sanat, and he actually told Sanat to ask our boys to stop. It came to a point at that, and then after that test match series, I think the South African coach, it was Smithy who was captain, he came and said, guys, let's stop this, enough.
So what was the thing that was a rankling, Harshal?
No, I'm not going to say that.
Okay,
I
okay.
cannot say what we said.
Okay.
It's not nice. But if we wanted to give something back, we knew exactly
Yeah,
how
that's
to do
great.
it.
Yeah.
And I think the next series that the South Africans came to Sri Lanka, we were told that they told the players that whatever you do, just do not sledge or go after the Sri Lankans. Just do the normal whatever that you say and all that, but just don't wake them up, because I think they realize that if they cross the line, that we could do even far worse and actually get under their skin, and it never helped them in their cause. And I think a lot of the teams have realized that, like you mentioned, what Harsha said, like what the Australians did, but now the Australians have toned down as well. They've realized that there's a certain way they need to go about things, but
Yes.
but that generation of the Australians could do that, because they had the talent, the people to execute, basically walk the talk.
Yeah.
And they can do that. And so that's the fine line, whether you can handle if someone gives it back to you is something that everyone needs to realize before they actually open their mouth and say something.
No, this is amazing, because one of the things is, ever so often what Arjuna did for Murali is held as the yardstick for the Sri Lankan team standing together and giving it back. But from whatever you're telling me, there have been several other instances where the Sri Lankan team, beyond cricket, have stood together as a unit and planned and kind of really stood up to oppositions.
Yeah, you have to plan, because you can't just go after an entire team. You need to pick and choose the guys you want to go after, because they get isolated when they come to bat.
Yes.
Especially.
Of course.
And that's
it's 11 of you and it's 2 of them.
Yes, and that's how you control those situations, and it's quite easy to do it if you really want to do it.
But coming to Sri Lanka cricket today, Mahela, do you think this is the lowest low that Sri Lanka cricket has ever seen? Or has there been a low like this? I mean, perceptibly, people seem to think it's the lowest low. Would you think this is the lowest low?
Well, I think it's unfair to say that. But in a modern day with social media and obviously what you've achieved, and when they see a dip like this, they could say, yes, this is what we've seen. But if you take Sri Lanka cricket in the 80s, when we got testators and for 10 years, we hardly won anything. We won the odd test match here and there. We won the odd one-day game. But that 96 probably turned a leaf, and that group of players, and then we understood how we need to win matches and how we can do that, and the brand that we needed to play. So probably this generation haven't seen.
Yes,
pre-96. Yeah, pre-96.
Yes.
Not so many of them.
Absolutely.
And so that has been a struggle, so which is fair enough, because Sri Lanka has just come into playing cricket, and then that's a learning. Now all of a sudden everyone is saying, okay, we've achieved so much, and then how can we be like this?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things which has happened. I wouldn't just say the last 2 years.
Yes.
I think this has been there for the last 15 years, and people haven't made constructive decisions where you need to improve, and it has just tagged along because we were performing. They've just shut their eyes and said, okay, the team's performing, we're doing well, and what you see is not what was actually happening. Yes, when you have a group of players for 15 years or 20 years, you will perform.
Yes.
But at the same time, you need to look at the future and say, okay, where we need to invest.
Yeah.
How can we be better? Because the other teams are going to do that. They are going to have structures, they are going to implement certain policies, and they are going to have a long-term plan. We probably would have had a long-term plan on the financial aspects of things.
Yes.
But we never had a long-term plan on how we're going to develop our game and how we're going to develop 15 years later in our domestic cricket, and how are we going to produce cricketers, rather than hoping that we get outstanding players, just guys who can get 800 wickets, or a Sangakkara who's going to score 40,000 international runs. That's not going to happen every day.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to happen every day, then you need to produce cricketers who's going to sustain a level of consistency and quality at that highest level. And they put a blind eye to that, basically. And what you have to remember is that even during this 20-year period, we still had players who would come in and play for 2 years or a year, and then they would be out, and then another guy comes in. It happened. But at the same time, you had a core of 8 players or 6 players who took the responsibility and who was performing at a higher level. So the other guys did not get exposed that much. But right now, because we don't have that many core players, everyone is getting exposed. So that is the difference. And then people will analyze in modern day cricket, okay, this is what the other team's doing, this is what our numbers are, all that. That's irrelevant. Anyone can analyze that, but you have to find the source of the problem.
Yes.
And the source of the problem is where we did not put anything in place 10, 15 years ago. That's where we are here right now. And still to date, we haven't done it. People are refusing to accept that their focus was somewhere else and their focus was not on cricket. First, we need to realize we've made mistakes in that department. And at least now, if we start 4 years, 5 years down the line, we will be able to get to where we want to be. But till then, it's going to be hard work.
So you do believe that if we set it right now, 5 years later, there is still the thing that, because if I were to come back to the symptoms, and I think you already touched on the core, and you already addressed and talked about the core, but the symptom, the thing that people seem to be responding to now is the fight seems to have gone out of Sri Lankan cricket. Fight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they've always, like you said, so many years you were in the top 3. You wouldn't win every World Cup, but you were there, you were fighting everybody. And people to people, if you look at the talent, Mahela, if you look at Kusal Mendes, if you look at Karuna Ratne, if you look at Chandimal, if you look at Matthew, if you look at Gunatilake, if you look at some of the players, seems like there is talent.
Yes, but that I think that is a different issue that you need to address separately. That has nothing to do with the situation that we are in as a team. The fighting spirit and the level of consistency has gone down because the confidence is not there as a group.
Yes.
Right now, I personally don't think our guys are playing as a team.
Yes.
They're being pushed to a situation, they're being, because of the selection policies, because of certain things that they've implemented in the last 2 years, the guys don't see them secure enough in the team first and foremost to play as a team.
Yes.
So therefore, they're actually playing for themselves, trying to hold a place.
Yeah.
The guy who's in the team is trying to do that. The guy who's waiting to come in also thinks, okay, if I don't perform in 2, 3, 4 games, I'm out.
Yes.
So that
So
has
there's a lot of fear.
fear of failure. That's the actual word. Fear of failure is creeped into the unit, and it's very hard for anyone to function in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
So the immediate solution for that is to try and rectify those issues, have a structure that settles a team, and have a policy that this is how we are going to play for the next 12 months or 15 months, and this is our game plan. This is the guys who are going to deliver that for us, and have a lot of faith and trust. If there are few injuries happens here and there, yes, you need to have adequate bench strength to do that. So you need to create a bench strength that could take that burden. I do not agree that we had, yes, there were injuries for us in the last 2 years, and because of that we had to make certain changes. But there is two things: the injuries and the changes wasn't the issue. We had other changes made which created this issue, and injuries had influenced that to an extent. Yes, then you can't keep the same group of players, but even the replacements wasn't ready for the job. So just kept bringing in, taking out guys until the main player would come in. So that doesn't help the bench to settle into a role either.
Yeah.
So there were, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just analyzing what has happened in the last 2 years.
Sure.
So it wasn't just one series or the other, but it happened in a way that where we have created this environment, and it's not a great environment for the players to be in. And I do put a blame on the players as well. They haven't actually shown character in tough situations. They haven't really said, okay, everything's going against us, but still we're playing for Sri Lanka and we need to do something special. So that blame the players should take as well. They haven't played as a unit. I can see there's a bit of rift in here and there. I don't know what those situations are. So that's something that you need to rectify. We've had so many captains, we had so many different leaders been appointed.
Yeah. I mean, Harsha spoke in my Chat-Athon saying, if I look at the Sri Lankan team, there are 5 captains in the field. And he mentioned that as one of
we
the
had
things.
few captains when we were playing as well, but who have done 2-3 years and then come off and said, no, I want the next guy to take over, I just want to concentrate. So those scenarios are different when you have what we had in the last 6 months. So see, that's where we don't see direction, and then the players don't see direction as well when you have different captains coming in and trying to create their own, authority. It's harder because then the next format there's a different guy. I mean, the modern day sometimes, yes, demand different captains for different formats, but if there is a quality guy, I mean, what now you've seen is obviously with Australia, they're trying to go back to that one captain who plays all formats.
Across all formats.
India is doing the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, Virat Kohli is proudly saying, I want to play in all formats.
Correct. And he's saying, okay, this is this is the way I want to play, and this is the way this team is going to play. So we've created a culture.
Yes.
So South Africa has now gone to FAF as well. So FAF is, I saw the announcement, he's taken over the one-day job as well. So he'll lead all 3 formats for South Africa. So the teams who had experimented with this different captains with different formats are actually slowly going back to the old format and said, no, if there is a guy who can play all 3 formats, and if he's good enough, then let him control the entire team, because then the players get settled into a certain pattern, a certain routine of how they want to play.
Sure.
And then the leadership gives you good directions.
Correct.
Right? But if there's no players who are going to play all 3 formats, then it's a different story. Then you need to find guys who can actually be a leader just for that format.
Sure.
But the consistency comes if the direction is given consistently, saying that this is the way we need to play.
So, I mean, I'm also hearing this thing about leadership. I mean, obviously there's an issue of leadership that seems to be coming out very clearly. When you talk about all of those 10, 12 years when Sri Lanka was in the top 3, they were leaders. And you also used another very interesting word which I want to pick on, alpha males. You said there was a pack of alpha males and you had to manage all of those alpha males, which is such a tough job to do. I mean, where are the alpha males and where is the leadership going to come from? See, I mean, I've heard about the proposal you've made to bring about change, structural change in Sri Lanka cricket, and I want you to talk about that as well. But equally, that's a very long-term thing. What do you do now? What do you do for the next tour? What do you do for the next 6 months? What do you do for the next 9 months? Sri Lankan people are passionate about the game, and you can see it on your own social media pages that the morale of the people are down. People are not going to the game. So we need a solution for 3 months. We need a solution for 6 months. Of course, there can be a solution for 5 years. But what do the people of Sri Lanka look for the next game?
No, I mean, there are solutions for the short term. Whether that's going to give you results straight away, we'll have to wait and see. That all depends on how the players react to those changes and how best they can adapt to that. But I see there has to be a lot of hard decisions to be made in the short term. The long term, it's quite constructive. It has to be driven and said this is the policy that we are going to develop the game the next 5 years, and this is the structure. The leadership has to come within the players to identify how best they can adapt to that and allow these leaders to find a solution on their own.
Do you see leaders?
There are leaders, but I don't think they have been given the freedom to be leaders. I feel that others are trying to control these leaders and questioning every move that they make. I mean, when we were leading the team, if we had people questioning our decision making, I don't think we would have been able to go about the way we wanted to go about.
But there were accusations even then that actually speaking, even your team and your bunch of guys who created that team did have a lot of interference, and that was always a part of Sri Lankan cricket.
No, the interference was there. We never allowed that interference to creep into the team. We never allowed the team to be divided, or those. See, we had a policy. We had anyone who comes with extra luggage or brings in that kind of interference or say cricket politics, we would kick those guys out because we did not want the entire apple cart to get rotten because of few bad apples. So that has helped us to keep that team together and to make sure our goal was to play good cricket, win matches for Sri Lanka and be proud of that. So yes, the interference was there. There were selections and all that happened. I'm not saying it did not, but we managed to control that within the team environment because we had strong leaders, not just 1 or 2, but 5, 6 guys.
How would you deal with it? Would you go to the administrators or whoever might be?
We would always, we wouldn't come out and say it in the papers.
Yes, but we would have one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, we would have.
Pushback.
Yes, we would do that in the right manner, because right now what I see is it's like trying to win fans, trying to win the public, and everything's out in the open.
Yes.
This guy says something, that guy says something, and it just every day is just news. Good organizations don't function on news. Good organization functions on results. And you need to find solutions behind closed doors, how we are going to come to that point. And that is how good companies, good organizations function. You don't wash your dirty laundry outside. You wash it inside and find out the solutions. And allow certain sections to flourish, allow them to make decisions, allow them to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. That's what we need to do. So whether it's short term, long term, we need to have a policy, how we're going to do that. And see, it keeps coming back, these are things we should have done 15 years ago. Have these structures set up so that everyone understands their roles. Right now, we're getting a lot of kids from outstation in our national team, but they come when they arrive at the national level, that's when they start learning about the game. We needed to take that to under 15s, about the planning, the thinking and all that, and how they adapt. That needs to go down to our grassroots, because we have a good platform with our schools cricket structure, but we haven't really used that. There's a lot of things that we can do to get all these things sorted out, but that needs planning.
So, I was speaking to another team, another international team manager, and he made an interesting statement, and he said he spoke to one of the senior people in your team right now and said, you know what, if you're going to have 24 teams in your local structure, it's not going to work because you're going to have a lot of garbage in and garbage out. That in a country like Sri Lanka, you can't have more than 4 teams. Why are you having 24? Is that an issue? Do you see that as one of the things?
Yeah, because we're playing quantity rather than quality. Simple as that. We're diluting the talent. Guys are not being pushed. They're not being tested at domestic level, at first class level. My biggest, in my proposal, the biggest problem we have is we don't use any of our international venues as our first class venues. So some of the boys don't even have experience playing in those venues.
That should be a home advantage for you.
Correct. And I remember my second last series against South Africa, when Dick Waller made a debut at Galle. He hadn't played a single match at Galle Stadium.
Incredible.
And Quinton de Kock came from South Africa and he made his test debut as well.
Yes.
So both these guys are alien to the conditions. And we had a guy from Kandy who played his first class cricket in Colombo for club and hasn't played a match at Galle International Stadium, and he made his debut. So these are simple things that we can easily rectify and find a solution for. But that shouldn't be just for our first class cricketers. That needs to go down to our under 15s and under 17s and under 19s. They should be using our international facilities now at a provincial level. I probably disagree with you. I think we can have 5 teams, 75, like if you take 15 players in a squad, that should be your top 75 players with your bench strength and all that, and to try and cover all your 3 formats. And we have 5 international venues spread it out, and that was the structure that I developed around that. And that structure will take the national policy into our grassroots levels. And that is your 5-year, 10-year plan. And then you can change the nourishment which is going to go down that vein depending on the modern technology and modern techniques that you use. But without a structure, none of that is going to go down to our grassroots levels. And we've along the way have made a lot of mistakes. We probably have so many level 1 coaches. Certificates have been given the last 20 years, 15 years. And there's no proper evaluation system how these level 1 coaches have progressed. And these are the level 1 coaches who goes and coaches schools cricket and various other kids, whether it's private coaching classes or schools. So if there's no evaluation structure to see whether they're doing the right thing after year 1, year 2, year 3, like that, we are producing bad cricketers at that level. And they are the ones who are going to come up the structure, and then all of a sudden we think, why aren't we producing any good cricketers? But we've created a lot of loopholes in our system over the years. And that's something that we need to sit back and re-evaluate and think, have we made decisions for cricket, for the game, or have we made decisions for our own personal agendas and to fulfill those agendas and not thought about the game in hand?
Yeah, strong words. Mahela, one question related to IPL. I remember 7, 8, 9 years ago when IPL came up as a phenomenon and Lalit Modi came up with this concept. There were many people around the world who hated it, including within India. The purists said this is the death knell of the game. one has to now look at it in hindsight and say that that was completely wrong to say that, because it does look like, and I don't know if you agree with it or not, and that assessment is right or not, it does look like the IPL has actually created phenomenal players across formats. I mean, if you look at some of the talent that's coming out of India now, those guys are playing, they were unearthed by IPL, and they seem to be getting groomed for Test cricket, and they seem to be performing well in Test cricket. Overall, the qualitative way in which the game has been impacted has also improved. I mean, has been tremendous. Batsmen have improved, fielders have improved. The kind of energy an Indian team has in the field today, one has to somewhere credit the IPL. I mean, my question really is related to Sri Lanka cricket. It's not really an eulogy of IPL. Is there an opportunity for a IPL kind of a format to suddenly unearth amazing talent in Sri Lanka as a short-term measure?
Yes, and maybe a no as well, because I think it's harder for you to do what India is doing, and for a matter like say Australia's had Big Bash for so many years, but they haven't really unearthed any such new talent.
But Caribbean cricket, I mean, you've been seeing the Caribbean.
CPL, yes, CPL has ignited the passion for cricket in West Indies.
Yes.
They still haven't unearthed that much talent, but they have ignited it because
But
it was
it's just a
dying
start,
down.
but you
It's
can
just a
already see
start.
it, you can see it.
Yes, it's a start. So they are heading in the right direction by doing that.
But we're not there. We don't have a tournament.
Yes, we don't have a tournament, but we just need to find out whether we have an appetite for a tournament like that, and how can we structure that tournament. Yes, we had a Sri Lankan Premier League, but it was structured in such a way that there was no continuity.
Yeah.
Do we do it in a provincial structure? Do we do it in a franchise structure? Do we do it in a city-based structure? You just have to sit down and brainstorm and see what would help Sri Lanka.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing. Coming back to the IPL in India, yes, India has a huge appetite for cricket. So IPL was always going to be good, and they had the right formula for that.
Yeah.
They put Bollywood and cricket together, and that was a hit. But what you have to remember is, while doing that, India's domestic cricket structure is very strong. The Ranji Trophy, the Dilip Trophy, they play 4-day first class cricket, they play 5-day Dilip Trophy, the last format. The finals is until you get a result. So the Indian domestic players knows how to bat for long periods.
Yes.
And it has been there for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
So now you see the difference. So they've got a test structure in place, and they've created a white ball structure to complement that, which is IPL. We'll produce all the one-day cricketers and the T20 cricketers.
Yeah.
Right? So they've got the balance right. And yes, Sri Lanka can do that. But Sri Lanka first have to do the base first, the foundation. We haven't even laid the foundation yet. Let's do the foundation first, and then think how best can we complement that with a tournament that is going to provide our younger cricketers a platform to perform and learn. I mean, what the Indian boys have learned is from all the other international cricketers.
Yes.
But the thing is, now Sri Lanka is so far behind. I don't think there's a window for Sri Lanka to play a league. It will be very hard, because there are 7 leagues happening around the world in a calendar year.
Yes.
And to find a really good window where you can actually attract overseas players to come and play, because that is
even the calendar is closing.
It is closing. And if you don't get the quality overseas players to come and play, none of our younger guys will learn anything from that.
Sure.
They need to get exposed to that.
Yes.
So that is very important. So how do we find that balance, or do we compromise by doing something different altogether? So those are things that you need to see, but that has to be done after we set up a foundation. Right now we don't have a foundation.
I'll come back to that again, but one more question related to IPL. There's also a fear that in this kind of a, entertainment, money, kind of like this mix of money, entertainment, cricket, Bollywood, it's too messy, and betting's becoming a big thing. And betting's becoming a nasty thing which is going to destroy the game. I asked Harsha this question, and he had a puritanical view about it, saying that, because people are getting cynical also. I mean, the 2011 World Cup toss, contentious. The last game T20 here, contentious. There was a lot of video footage which showed toss happening. No one seemed to be clear as to exactly what happened. And I saw your tweets on it saying, if the guys have buried it, don't unearth it. But all of this breeds a certain cynicism amongst people who are cricket lovers saying, you know what, is this game really all there? Is this actually all a big organized gang where people are making money, but in reality, it's not really a game being played honestly out there in the field? I mean, all of this talk, Mahela, it's so beautiful to hear when you talk about all these inspiring moments when cricketers have stood up and played the game. But, you know, will you stand up and say, actually, we're all clean? You know, I mean, all the stuff that's happening is actually not true at all.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there are evidence in scenarios where like people have got caught
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
So we cannot say that it's not happening.
Yes.
And that is why people are questioning with certain matches, certain situations when these things happen. Is it an honest mistake, or is it, you know, been fabricated, or are we watching a clean game? We have to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Because if there was no one ever been caught doing that,
Yeah.
then we can say no, it doesn't happen. But
how much of it is it a problem? What do you think?
I
Because
think it is
2011 World Cup final, was it fixed? I mean,
no. I mean, how can that be fixed? We played an honest game and we lost it. I mean, but if there is evidence and if someone says, okay, this is where it is, and then it should come out. But you cannot fabricate stories. You have to have solid evidence.
yes.
But what my take on this is quite different. My take on this is, when people get caught doing this, we don't punish them properly. We don't set an example. Everyone who gets caught, or everyone should be a life ban.
No mercy. There should be no mercy.
There should be a life ban. We've educated people enough.
Yes.
Every kid who comes and plays get a lecture, video presentations, been very well put by the ICC.
Is there enough education in that space?
There is enough education.
Okay.
And if anyone says no, they were not, then the local authorities need to take responsibilities. Like each individual country can do their own thing, like what ECB is doing, what Australian cricket is doing through their players association. Everyone has a program. When you sign every season, you have to go through that. If a foreign player comes in and joins a team, he has to go through that. So there's a proper structure and a proper system in place.
Yes.
So if there's other countries haven't done it, then they should. And that is where the education needs to even go down to our grassroots levels, to under 15s and under 13s even, and said, this is not good. You can't get involved in this. If you do that, that's the end of your career. And this is the way people are going. Because what I know is that people are getting pulled when they're 17, 18, when they see talent. That is how they lure these players. So it's not going to just happen when they come to the international cricket. It actually gets organized way below that. So our education has to go to that level. But at the same time, no mercy. I mean, we have to set an example. They cannot be involved in the game. Even after 20 years, I do not agree that anyone who was involved should be given the opportunity to get
again.
back.
Yeah, absolutely.
In any form,
Yes.
we get back into the game. Yes, they can do anything else, but cannot be part of
absolutely.
cricket.
I mean, there are enough corporates which have a clear ethic. There are corporates which say, if you make a mistake on the job, you learn from the mistake and it helps the corporation. But if you're caught cheating, that's it.
Yes.
There is no mercy, because that is a value system.
Because you have to have values in establishment.
Absolutely.
And if you go away from those values, it's very hard for you to pull it back again.
So you do think that by virtue of all the stuff that the ICC and the others have been doing, there is a compromise on values a little bit in terms of the cricket?
There is. I think we need to set, if we are to safeguard this game, I think we need to go back and set good values, not just for ICC, but for individual boards, individual establishments, and say, because if we let this infest it's not going to do anything right now. It's going to do something really bad in another 5 years or 10 years down the line,
Yeah.
when we don't have control of this situation. And at that point, it might be too late.
But I mean, what's your message to the viewing public? You know, in the sense, there is a message you've now given to the authorities, which is we need to make sure that there is no mercy. The value system needs to be maintained, and you know should be no compromise on values. But are you telling the viewing public that some of their cynicism is justified, or are you saying, you know, in reality, majority of the games are fine?
Majority of the games are fine. I mean, humans are playing.
Yes.
They will make mistakes, but you cannot look at that in a concept that think or which that's something suspicious happened. Yes, because of what has happened in the past, everyone will always question that. But I think they have to be more pragmatic and say no. I mean, this is genuine. This is, you know, this is how the game's been played. Because right now, I mean, then the players will also be like affected in a bad way, because they're not sure whether I should go for this big shot, because if I get out, you know, I might be, you know, branded as someone, you know, who was involved in something. So I don't think we should get to that level. I think there are a lot of things have been implemented in ways to find the culprits, and if someone does something wrong. But my take on this is, when you find someone guilty, or an establishment or an organization, or people who in cricket who are involved, whether it's international level or whether it's junior level, take them out of the system. Completely take them out of the system. Do not bring them back.
Yeah, the rotten apple.
Because I don't believe in rehabilitation when it comes to this. If they're rehabilitated, yes, fine, they can go and do something else. There are enough things to be done.
Yeah, of course.
But not in this
They can become businessmen.
They can do anything they want.
Sure.
If they're rehabilitated and if they're clean, then they can do anything they want.
Yeah.
But do not bring them back into the system, because then you lose respect.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Coming back to Sri Lankan cricket, and again I have to speak for the people who feel for what's happening currently. And Mahela, you spoke about Joss Butler and you know your role as a coach in Mumbai Indians, and there's again leadership that you're showing for Mumbai Indians. Many people feel that, and you're seeing it on your own Twitter feed, feel that all of these leaders of Sri Lankan cricket who are currently not involved directly with the game needs to do something together to bring back the game to its previous glory, and if not previous glory, to even greater glory, because there is a 2019 World Cup. It's just 2 years away. I mean, how can you get involved again, and what role can you play? And I want you to tell your fans as to what you think you can do, and you know how is this going to change, and what is your role going to be?
Well, it's a very tough question. I honestly don't know exactly how that's going to span out and how I can help. I've openly said I'm not looking at a full-time coaching job, and I am very frank and honest about it, because that's too much for me to handle, and after playing 18 years and traveling that much, that is something that is not in my appetite, and I don't think I'll do a good job, because if I'm not focused, I will not. I'm happy to be a consultant. I'm happy to do little things here and there, which keeps me in the game. When it comes to Sri Lankan cricket, that also I have. I mean, yes, I can impart my experience and things I think I can be done, but I was there. 2 years ago, I was in the cricket committee. I wanted to do the work.
Yes.
But when they said no, we don't need you, I can't force myself.
But there is an article in today's paper, I don't know whether you know, that it said that Sri Lankan cricket is roping you and Arvinda in to make changes. Today's article.
Well, it's 2 years too late, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 years too late. So I don't know. No one's approached me. And at the same time, I wanted to have an environment that consciously I know I can work, and people around me are the same wavelength, and they are good people. So that's how I operate. That's how I genuinely will operate. Nothing else to say.
Mahela Jayawardena, thank you very much for your time on Chat-Athon. It's indeed been a great privilege and a great honor to have you as our guest. Thank you so much for your really insightful and really provocative and above all most honest and candid views. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.